Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Frank Sullivan. I'm going to be your host and guide for what should be quite an interesting deep dive into the world of data strategy and ETL. Now, this is quite a specific London reference, mind the gap. So, who here knows what mind the gap means? I think a few of you will understand that it's a reference to the ridiculously long gap between the platform edge and the actual trains in the London Underground system. So we thought that gap is pretty interesting, and everyone understands mind the gap. So that's the principle that we started with here. So today we're going to be talking in three parts. We're going to introduce who we are, Fivetran, our partner automating data movement, Databricks, our partner, the data intelligence platform, and of course, yours truly at Cloudaeon. We're all about exceptional service delivery. So why have we teamed up? Well, it's very simple. A lot of the operational data that you have from operating your business seems to be trapped in certain places. It's well structured, it's good, it's high quality data, and it's well governed, but it's very hard to get at. And if you were to ask the average data scientist on the street, saying, what's your favorite data analytics environment? I can guarantee you that 99.999% of them are not going to say, gosh, I'm so glad that I was able to analyze my data in a certain vendor. So we're going to talk about some common SAP use cases. We're going to talk about the key challenges with SAP data. We're going to talk about the modern data stack. And boy, oh boy, do we have an absolute powerhouse here. We have Richard Brouwer, principal engineer at Fivetran, dialing in from his vacation, which is absolutely amazing of you. Thank you, Richard, for joining us. Do you want to give us a 10-second intro to yourself?
Yeah, I'm Richard. I'm a principal sales engineer for Fivetran. I'm a global role for Fivetran, so I help our customers moving SAP data into Databricks.
He is quite literally the SAP data whisperer. Benita, welcome. You're joining us from Databricks. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. So I'm Benita, Senior Solutions Architect at Databricks. I help customers build their solutions on the data platform.
Benita Owoghiri, you're very welcome. Vikas Kumar.
Hi, Frank. Hi, everyone. I'm Vikas. I'm SAP certified solution architect, and I'm working with Cloudaeon as a SAP functional expert, providing my knowledge about SAP data and how can we use that in a data object form.
And
Yep.
Tony Kelly joins us to be our chat moderator and recovering CTO for the day. How are you, Tony?
I'm good, Frank. Thanks. Yeah. So just for the audience, I'm a partner sales engineer at Fivetran, and I'm on the call day here just to support the team by answering any questions you may have in the chat there.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. So this is an absolute powerhouse of a panel. We're going to get started. Now that you've had a chance to get to know us, we'd like the chance to get to know you a little bit. Let me know when the panel, when the poll has popped up on your screen. It's up on your screen, it's working. Just to make sure that we're hitting all the right notes in this online event, we'd like to know what level you're at, some of the key challenges. Are they around finding data expertise? Is it more around costs and licensing? Is it actually doing data analytics or getting your teams to do analytics within SAP? And then also we've got a couple of really good events coming up. On the 28th of May, we have a live lab. There's a technical focus here done with Fivetran, Databricks, and Cloudaeon. This is more for the practitioners in the audience or those that want a technical deep dive into getting data moving so that you can really mind that gap. And then for the leadership and execs on the call today, or if you're watching this on demand and it's before the 26th of June 2025, then feel free to come along to the exec roundtable. So I'll leave that poll there. That is really quite interesting. We've got a great split here. We've got about 30% data leadership, 20% senior, 10% junior, 41% other. Very nice. I wonder what the others are. And then in terms of key challenges, overwhelmingly 65% are worried about analytics within SAP and getting data out of SAP. About a quarter of you are interested in the sort of costs, licensing issues, ETL issues, and about 10% are interested in finding SAP experts or finding it a challenge to recruit and retain the right talent. And then about a third of you saying other. So anyone who's answered other for role or other for key challenges, drop me a little message in the chat box. Are you in development? What kind of issues are you working with? Alex, enterprise architect, of course. Tanasha, yes, the recording will be available. But we may scrub this part out. Interesting, we've got at least 3 or 4 enterprise architects on here. That's very cool. So let's get on with the show. Richard Brouwer, who are Fivetran and why are they so cool?
So who's Fivetran? So Fivetran is founded in 2012 in the Bay Area by 2 persons who saw a problem with moving data. And I think, if I remember it correctly, was Excel to Redshift at that moment. And found that there were a lot of people having problems moving data. So, and created more and more connectors and more targets. So we're seen in the world as a data analytics innovator. We have over 6,000 customers globally, and that's growing and growing. Over 1,200 employees, and they are all over the world. We have offices in Oakland, Denver, Dublin, Amsterdam, Novi Sad, Bangalore, and Sydney. So we cover the whole globe, 24/7 support on our products. But that's of course important for our customer, but it's also important how does other companies sees us, like Google Cloud sees us as a data integration partner of the year this year. Databricks sees us as the innovation, gives us the innovation partner award. DBT Labs, tech partner of the year. Gartner, we are a challenger in the Magic Quadrant, which is of course for a lot of companies very important. We are a strong performer in Forrester, and we are in the Forbes Cloud 100, and we help all over the world moving data efficiently and safe in the cloud for our customers.
Well, with all of those awards, we look forward to you guys catching up with Cloudaeon. Or is it the other way around? Benita.
Right. So who's Databricks? So Databricks is the data and AI company. So what does that mean? We help customers build, scale, and govern their data, analytics, and AI workloads. And we are based on the cloud-based platform and the original creators of the Delta Lake, MLflow, and most popularly, Apache Spark. And these technologies are the foundation of our open source approach. So Databricks was founded 11 years ago, back in 2013, and we've grown a lot since then. So as of now, we have over 10,000 global customers, $1.5 billion in revenue, and we are touching customers across all industries and across different business sizes. So that is who we are as Databricks. And most recently, we have also acquired Music ML. So there's a lot of Gen AI conversations going on. And we are also the pioneers of generative AI technologies today.
That's very interesting. If Databricks is the data and AI company, then Cloudaeon, and I think we got there first, our tagline is your data and AI partner. As the Chief Marketing Officer of Cloudaeon, I think I'm going to take this one, Vikas. I can't help myself. The idea behind Cloudaeon is exceptional service delivery, right? The idea that customers have access to plenty of consultants, they're smart, they're enterprise, they're driven, but they may be missing the hands. They've got the brain, but they're missing the hands, that real focus on execution. And that's why we've got a capabilities model aligned across 4 practices: AI, data, cloud, and software. We're the people that you can turn to when you need something done. It's as simple as that. So I'm going to pass over to Richard now to start the keynote. This is going to be a little bit interactive and collaborative. We've got Tony on the chat box. I'll be moderating as we go through, and if there are any questions or any observations, I'd love to see them in the chat box as you go along. So can you all hear us and see us okay? All good?
Okay. So I'm trying, if I see something in the chat, I try to answer if I can read it that fast. But otherwise, we have...
That's my job.
Your answers are in capable hands of Tony. So as you know, probably, that's probably why you're calling in, because you have a problem with your SAP data. Your SAP data is, of course, the backbone of your organization. We see a lot of customers, they have their curated, high quality data available in their SAP systems. And mostly we see the 5 modules. There are a lot more modules, but the 5 main modules you see is finance, and very strong finance reporting in your SAP system. That's also the strong thing about SAP. Everything is integrated with each other. Sales, we see a lot of sales use cases, and of course production data, which was the start of SAP. SAP started up as an ERP program, enterprise resource planning, and was actually to calculate stocks and what do we need to produce, what are lead times of certain parts and things like that, and logistics. So the logistic part is added with adding warehouse management and all those kind of systems, and HR. Although you see a shift from HR to other solutions. So if we look to that, 99 of the world's largest 100 companies use SAP to support their critical business processes. So that means SAP is very, very important. And you need that data with all our new technologies we have nowadays, with all our new sources, which we have since the 80s, which was growing. When I started in IT, it was simple. There was a database. You had only one source. You could report on that. It was already complex enough to combine different sources. But nowadays, everybody wants to be data driven. So combine that data, your SAP data, your high value data, with other sources, and that's what we see in the market. So, and that also makes the data siloed, because all that SAP data is complex to get out. So if we look to the high cost of the siloed data, the SAP data, next slide, Frank. There are there's some research done by Dimensional Research about the cost of that siloed data, and that's what we also see when we talk with our customers and prospects, that they have that problem to get that data out and combine that data with other data sources. So 71% of the companies have delayed decision making, and that can be caused by the data is actually not available, or it's too late available, or it's not in full. You need some additional custom tables or custom columns there. 69% has delayed data analysis. That's caused by the way SAP data in the past was get out. It was loaded into batch into a BW system, and there the exports were made. And normally that BW system runs every day, was updated every day, maybe every 4 hours. But what we need now is low latency. So I'm not talking about near real time, because there are only a few near real time use cases. But low latency, I mean, you want the data from your SAP systems within 5 minutes in your data platform. And 58%, sorry?
I'm sorry, this is too good not to interrupt here. Jess has come up with the question. We've made the claim that 99 out of 100 companies are using SAP.
From the 100 largest company in the world, they're using SAP.
She's asking who's the one company that doesn't.
I have no idea. I have, to be really honest, I didn't make this made by marketing, but I'm pretty sure there is a company would probably say, maybe it's a very large Chinese company. I don't know. I really don't know.
We'll find out for you, Jess. Don't worry.
Yeah, and also stunning is that 58% of the companies has seen an impact on their core business process. If I talk with customers, they sometimes say, especially in logistics, I don't get my data fast enough. They give it only after an hour, but I need within 10 minutes the data to determine which trucks I should send out. Things like that you see all still happening. And we are there to help you to get the data fast, reliable, and at the right frequency in the right format for you. Next slide. So what are common SAP use cases? And I'm touching only the tip of the iceberg, I know for sure. So, and I'm not wanted to go too deep. We talk with Frank about it, otherwise that will take hours. So first one is, of course, Customer 360s. Of course, we understand Customer 360s data comes from a lot of other sources and maybe more important sources, but still there's very valuable data in SAP about your customers if you have your sales module configured. So let's say if we look into SAP CRM, if you have SAP CRM, you see the communication with your customers. Maybe they have complaints about things, or they had a lot of communication with you in your CRM. In your ECC, you can see what's the value of your customer. What's the revenue from this customer? Do I have to put a lot of effort in this customer? Or, of course, you will never ignore, can I delay the response a little bit because this customer only brings us in $100 a year or something like that? So, Vikas, what do you see in Customer 360 and SAP?
Right. So, as you mentioned, we have all these different sources. In addition, we also have third-party sources, like we have mentioned down below, right? So the combination of data from SAP, CRM, Salesforce, ECC, S/4HANA, different boxes, in addition to these additional boxes, will put together a visualization or a picture, how our customer is doing, how they are performing, or how much business we are getting from different customers, right? So,
yeah. Another important one you see is common use cases is supply chain management. So I was talking about deliveries and trucks. So if I talk with customers, of course, SAP has their planning tool for trucks, but that's not the greatest module. And of course, SAP will tell you, normally, this is what you should implement. Follow your business processes according to our processes. We programmed like this. But you see more and more customers want to use better, more advanced information like real-time GPS, traffic data, weather data to plan all those routes and combine that together instead of having that all together in one SAP system. You need artificial intelligence, smart decision making in those cases. And of course, there are a ton of other supply chain management issues like replenishment and things like that. But maybe Vikas, you can talk a little bit more about those use cases, how you see that at Cloudaeon.
Right. So yeah, during my experience working with big retail companies, the use of the latest transportation management with third-party tool like GPS, enablement, and routing. Now we can track the supply chain to the point that we can say this particular shipment will reach to particular distribution center at this point of time, or to a particular store at that point of time. So supply chain side is a big evolution with S/4HANA. And nowadays we are like getting the real-time tracking of our supply chain of our shipments. We know the exact date, on-sale date in the store, and we also calculate what is the date we need the stock to be delivered to the distribution center to make that on-sale date possible. So there's a big evolution in retail and fashion.
Okay, if we look to predictive and of course, preventive maintenance, very important. A lot of the data is in your SAP system, in your plant, your preventive maintenance module, your QM module, where all the measure points are there. But that's not it. Nowadays, you have probably tons of sensor data and IoT. That's booming, and you cannot all put that into your SAP system because that will be too much data. You will pay for that, of course, with a big HANA system for that. So you want to put that into a right data platform, which is completely built for that use case. So, Vikas, what do you see predictive and planned maintenance?
No, I agree. Like with S1 evolution, now we have a lot of data, a different type of data. So definitely, like SAP S4HANA and these all tools, yeah, we can have a lot of data.
And what do we need to do with that data if we get it out of SAP? We put it into Databricks. So Benita, go on.
Yeah, if you can, yeah, next slide. So I'll start by saying that I believe that the businesses in every industry that are winning are those who are taking advantage of the data that they have and also leveraging AI as well. But I would also say that a lot of organizations are struggling to realize that vision. And this can be, and the main issue with this is things like having to stitch together many systems. So imagine you're at the start of your journey and you want to create a data platform. Now you have a data lake. You also have a data warehouse for your structured data. You need to bring in a BI tool. You need to also bring a separate tool for orchestration and ETL, and then streaming and ML and Gen AI, all of these different things. It would just make your engineers go crazy, right? And this is where the problem just begins. And what we see today is that with all these different systems, it causes three main problems. First, the data silos, right? So you have different redundant copies of your data in different systems, increasing costs. And for each of these systems, you also have a different approach to applying security and governance policies, and it can essentially complicate the policies that you have and can result in security breaches. The second one is generative AI has also shown a bright light on this. So it opens up a lot of data privacy and control questions. And finally, and most importantly, the technical teams, your engineers, having to deal with all these different tools to solve their problems. And at the end of the day, most of your company is reliant on the technical team to create your data products. So this is where we kind of come in terms of centralizing where this data from SAP goes, right? You want a central place where your engineers can unlock the insights of your data. They can start doing interesting things. They can start creating models off of that data. They can start generating dashboards for your business stakeholders, and essentially give yourself more time to focus on the actions that you get, the insights that you get, rather than spending time creating these engineering your pipelines, your ingestion pipelines, as well as stitching together different tools together. And Richard is going to talk to you about the details on the challenges that these technical people face with SAP data replication.
So just before we jump into that, Zoom chat isn't super intuitive. When you're sending a message to the panel, as some of you are sending private messages, make sure that when you're sending the message, that you change that little blue box to everyone so that we can all share in the knowledge and we can answer the question directly. Thank you very much, Michael. So now when we can reply, we can see what the question was with context. Back to Richard.
Okay, so why is it so complex to get the SAP data out? of course, there's no investment made to get data out of SAP by SAP itself. So it's all done by third parties. And what we see is that I was talking 99 of the 100 biggest companies have SAP. So they have complex enterprise landscape. They have maybe 2 or 3 cloud providers. They have maybe 2 or 3 SIs even. All different data platforms to have that data, and all that data needs to be molded for those platforms, has to be transported efficiently, but also very securely from one cloud provider to another cloud provider, because there is maybe your data platform in. So all that complexity doesn't help to get the data easily and efficiently out of their SAP data. So another thing is, SAP made it very, very complex and very restricted to get data out of SAP. So they said, if you want to get data out of SAP and you don't have an enterprise license, but a runtime license, you have to go via the application layer. So you have to build SAP programs and functions to get that data out of the SAP data. And further, in that SAP data, there are no change markers. So you can actually not see what changed. So that makes things very, very complex. And adding triggers to that can be a solution, but it's not always allowed. We have solutions for that to get the data efficiently, because less data means less cost in the cloud, and less data means also you have the answers faster, especially in the downstream solutions built on that SAP data. Further, we see a lot of limited resources to develop data pipelines. So if I ask normally, who has enough data engineers in events, raise your hand. I can tell you, I see 0 hands. Nobody has enough or too much data engineers at this moment. So if something gets built from SAP, it's complex, you need special knowledge about that. There's maybe 1 or 2 persons in your company who can do that. So you have to wait for that. Or you have to wait that the SAP people build something which are even limited, more limited as resources. So it's very hard to get the data out. What if we give you a tool which can get data out of SAP within 10 minutes if you install the programs in SAP and you select the tables you want and get them into your target environment? And then, of course, we have the SAP systems, because they are the core of the company. They cannot be impacted by ETL tools where the core processes are impacted. So full extracts and things like that, I've seen that in the past. They're very inefficient. So if you have solutions which has only there to gather the CDC, or even not reading from the tables, but reading from the logs to get that CDC data. CDC is change data capture for people who don't know the CDC term. That will be great. We build solutions which has almost 0 impact on your SAP systems. And that's very important, especially if it's not SAP, you have to prove yourself always much more. But we can do that. We show that we get the data efficiently with a very low impact on the source system out of your SAP system. And you don't have all those data engineers who have to build those data pipelines. You can have an advanced person can actually advance. Let's say a business analyst can just select the tables he wants and move them into the SAP. So that's the first challenge. And then we come to the next challenge. And the next challenge is, of course, what are we going to do with that data? And Vikas is going to talk to you about all the data transformations you have to make in the platform. Vikas, over to you.
Thanks, Richard. So before I talk about the data transformation, let's talk about the use cases. So we'll talk about the first example from our retail industry. In retail, it's very, very important to understand our future demand, to determine our future demand. We always want to make sure in a retail environment that all the shelves in our store should always have enough products. We don't want to go for a surplus amount of products, inventory. At the same time, we want to make sure that we will never run out of the stock, and we should not have a board saying that currently out of stock. Now in SAP IS Retail solution, we deal with multiple boxes. It's not a single ERP tool or a single box which handles everything. We have SAP S/4HANA or ECC as a backend system. Stores have different ERP or SAP POS version where actual point of sale transactions are happening. And in between, we have a box called car system, which receives the data from a store and send it to the SAP backend system. Now see how difficult it is to take or to get the data from all three systems, real-time data from all three systems, and to predict our future demands for up to a span of 6 months to 1 year to ensure that all our shelves in all the stores should never run out of the stock, should never go. Any product should not be out of stock. So that's one case, which is a bit complex in SAP world. We always talk about this scenario. And then again, non-SAP or even for SAP also, the procurement analytics from the finance side or from procurement side, we always want to have a clear picture or visualization of our vendors who are supplying, what's the percentage of product they are supplying, what's the quality measures they are using, what's the delivery timeline they are following, and how they are in terms of quality, like all those things we want to have. At the same time, we want to get the visibility on how much I'm spending on which category. What is my procurement area? What are my cost centers, business areas, business entities doing the maximum procurement versus doing the minimum procurement? So these are two use cases where we have successfully validated our solution. So let's talk about the data transformation. So getting the data, raw data from SAP. So we know, like whoever has worked on SAP, we know in SAP, we store the data in the forms of database tables. So there are database tables for master data. There are tables for transactional data. If I'm creating a purchase orders, I'm creating a single purchase order. That purchase order sits into 10 to 15 database tables in SAP. I'm posting a journal voucher entry, or just a single financial entry. It sits into 20 plus tables in SAP. Now it's very important to have a SAP expert or have the expertise to understand what is my relevant data to convert in the form of business object. So this is the expertise we provide. Once you extract the data, load the data, we work in the transformation side to tell you what is the relevant data and how can we use that data to generate the business object reporting in a very good visualization and the graphical in a tabular form, the different type of reports. So this is about transformation. I'll request Richard and Benita to talk about a data lake and data things.
It's difficult to overstate the importance of being able to translate from one to the other, being able to replicate the business logic, being able to replicate the data, being able to map it between SAP and Databricks. That translation and transformation piece is what we do really, really well. Fivetran is exceptional at high volume replication, but making sure that those transformations are consistent so that data scientists, analysts, data engineers using the data within Databricks have uniformity and can actually combine data from different sources effectively. That's what unlocks the value. Thank you, Vikas.
All right, so before I jump into the data lakehouse, I'll start with what a lot of you on the call probably have at the moment, which is a data warehouse. And as you know, data warehouses have been around for a long time. They've been really good at supporting structured data and supporting business intelligence workloads. But in terms of the period where data becomes more, and we're collecting a larger variety of data sets like images, videos, unstructured data at high volume and high velocity, data warehouses begin to suffer. And this is kind of where the data lake comes in. And I'm sure a lot of you in your teams, you have data lakes as well as data warehouses to kind of, have a middle ground for the limitations of both of these technologies. A data lake is amazing. Low cost storage allows you to dump all types of data into it. However, there are caveats to that. You don't really get the asset transaction capabilities, schema enforcement, and without some of these key capabilities that you get from a data warehouse, in a data lake, you end up having two systems to basically support both type of use cases. And this is where the data lakehouse comes in. It combines the capabilities of a data lake and a data warehouse into a single platform. So once you've ingested your data using Fivetran, you've done your transformations, where do you now sit that data to unlock other capabilities? This is where the data lakehouse becomes really powerful. In the previous slides, we were talking about joining different types of data like geospatial, image, and supporting advanced analytics where you can even power forecasting, machine learning. This is the sort of capabilities that the lakehouse gives you. So what does this really look like? And I'll start with the bottom side of this image here that you see on the screen, where you have your data lake. This could be Amazon S3, or it could be Azure Data Lake, where you have all your raw data coming in, text, audio, video, images, whatever you feel like putting in there. On top of that, you have this unified storage for reliability and sharing. And this is where Delta comes in to give you transaction support. So as a data lake, you don't have this ability to do asset transactions and so on. Schema enforcement and governance on top of all of that data. And once you've had this unified security and governance, making sure that obviously people in your organizations have access to the different things that they need to have access to, you can then unlock data science and AI, ETL, real-time analytics, orchestrate your pipelines, and even data warehousing. So you can actually have your dashboards, Power BI, Looker, Tableau, acting directly on the data as it sits in the data lake. And this is the vision. Without the vision is to unify everything in a single platform, allow your data engineers, your data scientists, ML engineers, your analysts to basically be working on the same platform, using the same data and reducing redundancy across your business. And that is the power of the data lakehouse.
One of the things you see here is you can have audio or video or images. What about that for your preventive maintenance? Huh? You have audio because you hear bearings are not working correctly. You can combine that with your SAP preventive maintenance. And of course, you have your finance data into the lakehouse. You need to secure and govern who has access to that data, and catalog. Very important. Where is the data coming from? Especially when we are combining multiple sources and having your secure and high quality SAP data. You want to know where it ends up and who can see that.
So, quick philosophical question for all three of you here, right? Do you see governance as an enabler for pushing innovation, being able to get better capabilities around data transformation, data analytics?
I think it's key. To be honest, I think this is the most important. We get so much data, and we have to understand the data. And at a certain moment, there will be artificial intelligence. We are not there yet, but that will come. We will have, but to have artificial intelligence, LLMs working to analyze the data, you need to catalog it. And you need to, and of course you also need a governance on that. So I think it's an area which is overseen and ignored because it doesn't give any value. It's only cost seen by C-level. I think if you want to make the step forward, this is the key to make the step forward.
What do you think, Benita? Unity catalog all the way, right?
100%. I completely agree that a lot of businesses always look at governance as a second-hand sort of project. It's not always the first thing that comes until something happens, right? And the cost of not having good governance is catastrophic to businesses. I've seen some cases where PII data or data is just released in a way that businesses cannot handle. They don't even know who's done what. They don't even know where that incident occurred. So whenever they want to even fix it, it becomes a problem. So 100% agree that this is something that either needs to be addressed more now than ever, especially, as you said, Richard, with AI coming out. Privacy concerns, security concerns. I strongly believe that it should be a driver for innovation rather than a second-hand thought.
Thank you, Benita. And Vikas, I'm interested in your take here. Do you see governance as an enabler or something that's going to slow down AI adoption internally?
So I believe, like as you said, governance is this is the one where we need the innovation, right? So in SAP, we have a dedicated module for master data governance, MDG, and I've worked on that. I've seen how we are managing different set of data things. So yeah, I definitely agree with you.
All right. So thanks for the little rabbit hole. I just think it's an interesting way of thinking about it. So let's open this up to all the panel now, right? We're going to try and visualize the modern data stack here. So Richard, do you want to kind of lay this out for us? Starting on the left, guys, moving over to the right.
I said when I started in IT, it was simple. So there was maybe an Oracle or SQL Server as a source. Everything was in a database. There was no unstructured data. But nowadays, you see more people are using applications, APIs, marketing apps, finance app, AR apps, product apps, sales apps, event collectors, and all that data needs to be brought to a data platform and needs to be integrated. And some data needs to be handled before it can combine with other data. You have to change the data types from the source to the target because they're maybe not supported, the format where it comes into, all that kind of challenge. You can build it yourself, but how many data engineers? Everybody has not enough data engineers. Don't build it yourself. Let the professionals do it for you. We do it with CDC. We know what's changed. If there are changes in the source, we even can apply that automatically. So you don't have to ask a data engineer or you have to update. That's all cannot be done. So go to our website, see for which connectors we do this kind of things. All our connectors support CDC and can write in many targets if necessary. And I think this is the big challenge to get data efficiently over. Add metadata to the data. So in the next steps, you only have to process the delta, which makes the data faster available against less cost. And that's what I want to say about the first start.
We're going to have this explosion, this continuing explosion of data sources, ingesting data correctly with the right ETL processes, and then moving things into the right platform. Benita, talk us through the workloads and this concept of sort of bronze, silver, and gold. Normalized data, cleaned and augmented data, and then business level aggregates of these strategic data sets. What does this mean in the context of the modern data stack, and what does it mean for a lot of our enterprise customers?
Yeah, so what you see here is something we call the medallion architecture. And a lot of businesses have adopted it, and essentially it's a design pattern that allows you to incrementally or say progressively improve the quality and the value that you're getting out of your data as it flows through these different stages, right? So the first stage is the bronze layer, right? It comes as is from the source. It hasn't been enriched. It hasn't been joined with all the different data that you already probably have, or maybe it has irrelevant things. Sorry, maybe it has irrelevant things as part of the, schema, as part of the structure. So once this data comes in, it's not very valuable. You can't really get a lot of insights to it. And if you even try to do that, it's going to take you a lot of, say, filtering out. It's going to take your analyst a lot to be able to gain insights from the bronze layer, right? So the silver layer comes in where you are cleaning and conforming the data into a way that allows more, I guess, ad hoc reporting, machine learning, but it's conformed in a way that's just enough for you to be able to allow people to start accessing it, right? And I see a lot of businesses where the silver layer is kind of where you can share so that the other parts of the business can then even aggregate other, data points, depending on your architecture, right? So once your data is in silver, you've defined your structure, you've enforced the schema, and one powerful thing here is data quality. So as your data is moving through this pipeline, the quality of the data is also improving as you go along. So what you're doing here is transformations, filterings, using a job, Spark, whatever, programming paradigm that you are comfortable with. Most of our customers are versed with Apache Spark, so you'll be doing a lot of transformations in this stage. Then you feed all of that data into the gold layer, right? And all of this data is now in the form where you can then unlock and share to your business intelligence applications. You can use this data as features for your machine learning models. And essentially, this data is in its highest quality state. And this is how it should be, right? So this is kind of the path that your data will be going from source to your consumption. And this is what sort of the architecture that pattern that a lot of businesses have adopted today.
That's great. Thanks, Benita. This is a lot for one company to do. And to make the sources work with ingestion, to build the pipelines running in data workloads, to get the transformations running. Richard, I think we lose all credibility if I'm the one to say this, but there's a reason why we've won awards with Fivetran and why we've got over 22 of our engineers certified on Databricks and things. So as partners, how do you see us being able to sort of tie these three technologies together as the MSP, as the integrators here? How does Cloudaeon do that in your eyes?
I think to use the technologies like Databricks and Fivetran, speed it up, get the data as fast as possible there, and put in your knowledge to combine that data. So your knowledge of the industry is very important. We provide the data. We are the engine. We are the fuel for our customers. They have to build the car, and you are actually building the car. So the engine is built by Databricks. The fuel and all the stuff to let the engine run is created by us to make everything as easy as possible. But you have to build a car, and that's what I see the role of Cloudaeon. So and of course you prepare already parts of the car, so you have to assemble it. But I think in the SAP world and in the enterprise world, everybody wants his own car, like a little bit like a Rolls-Royce kind of car. And that's what you should. That's the role of Cloudaeon in this whole ecosystem for us.
And Benita, how would you characterize our capabilities and partnerships for Databricks?
Like as you said, moving data can be easy with Fivetran, but then when the data is in a Delta Lake, it takes a lot of work to get it to the value that you want. And that is where I see Cloudaeon helping businesses, right? Being able to accelerate the way and the time it takes for them to get insights on your data, especially when it comes to your point, Richard, that there's not enough data engineers around right now. And it takes a lot for you to, especially if you have many different sources, different data sets, maybe different formats. That's very daunting for a lot of businesses. And Cloudaeon is a business that has many years of experience doing these things again and again across different types of industries. So where I see them coming in is essentially just accelerating their time to value on their data products. And I feel like that is the most important thing, because time is critical. Time is money. So yeah.
Thank you both for putting that in context. I think that's a wonderful segue for Vikas to explain some of the capabilities that we bring, on top of the data lake, operating Fivetran on behalf of the customer or with them, and really the value of that partnership to activate the data and to reduce that time to value. Vikas, how would you describe, the transformations, the enrichment processes, building things ready to be consumed?
Right. Yeah, so we get the raw data, we filter the data, we move it to different layers, and then we bring our experience, our expertise dealing with different type of data to produce the business object, the reporting side, or the extract of data. So SAP, as I said, have a structured table form to store the data. Every single table have hundreds of columns, but not all hundreds of columns are relevant. So here we comes with our expertise. What are the relevant column, which gives us the value for the business object? How to connect different tables, like getting data from different tables within the SAP and getting data from different sources and joining it with SAP data. That's the expertise we bring to produce the business object, to produce these data into a report format or the usable format. So like that's where we have the transformation and enrichment part, how to read the data, how to use the data to fulfill your business requirement.
So we're coming more towards the end here, right? So let's talk about the use cases and the outcomes of this, right? It's very interesting to see the sort of left to right. I almost see the modern data stack as this Kanban board of never-ending to-dos. You've heard how we work with partners. You've heard why Fivetran is best in class for this job. You've heard from Databricks why the medallion design pattern is really important and how we can help you implement that. But you've got a lot of use cases around manufacturing and retail, merchandising, getting things forecasted and realigning things along the supply chain. There's fraud and risk management for financial services. We've all talked about that customer 360 view, probably closer to my home turf around media and marketing use cases around marketing optimization. And of course, claims handling and fraud, modeling risk for insurance. These are a lot of the use cases that we have experience with. So the outcome is very simple. It's being able to reduce time to value, being able to have a team in place that you can trust, that can operate this, in Richard's words, Rolls Royce of the modern data stack. I do think it's important to draw a conclusion here. So let me break this down with Benita. What do we need to know about Fivetran and Databricks?
Yeah, I think these are the key takeaways from all the things that we've seen today. And it comes back to my point about time. right? I've seen, I think a couple months ago, I was working with a customer that had sprints, about 2 weeks sprint for a single source. And they had about 15 different sources, right? And it just comes back to being able to reduce the amount of time it takes to get that data, to get the insights. So imagine if you could, if you could reduce the time up till 10 minutes for you to be able to ingest a new source into the lakehouse, right? And then power all the different use cases that we saw in the previous slide, right? The second point is the data itself. So 100% of the data always loads, verifiably correct. And as Vikram mentioned, Fivetran works in a way that when you get the data from your sources, it's organized in a way that you can actually use it to join data that you already have in your data lake, and, move that data properly in a way that you can get to that gold layer and reuse that data product across your entire business. And the final point is that the effort it takes for your technical engineers. Fivetran is such a simple integration, especially with Databricks. It's literally like I think it's about 2 clicks or 3 clicks on the console for you to just integrate with Fivetran. So there's not a lot of engineering and coding that you have to do with all the different connectors and all the different things, managing and operational, the operational overhead of it is pretty much 0%. And this makes everyone happy, right? You have onboarding new sources very quickly, all of the data is coming in, and you don't even have to manage it. So this is basically the key points that, having these two products together can realize for your business. And that's the key takeaway that I see from this whole conversation. And once that data is in there, obviously you would need to do some transformations, and you will need to organize it and enrich it, aggregate it. And, this is where, Frank, you're the expert.
Talk about time to value. We've got 60 seconds left. We will open it up to the Q&A and stay a little bit longer for those of you who have unanswered questions, and we'll stop the recording. But let me summarize very succinctly. Cloudaeon builds the car. Databricks is the engine. Fivetran is the fuel, and you, the customer, are the one that gets to drive it. That's the best way I can describe it. So we're at 4 o'clock. If you need to drop, we understand, but we're going to stop the recording shortly. If you'd like to stay on for 10 minutes, I'm sure the panelists would oblige, but Richard Brouwer, Benita Owoghiri, and Vikas Kumar, and the irreplaceable Tony Kelly, thank you so much. You have been an incredible panel. So on behalf of the audience, I think we should all wish you a big thank you for giving up your time today. This has been really quite enlightening.